Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends Podcast. The podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. With me today is one of the coolest men on the planet. It is Engel Jones. He is in Trinidad and Tobago, and as soon as you hear him speak, you know he's from the Caribbean. He is super cool. He has a podcast called 12-Minute Combos, almost up to about 3,000 episodes. I've been on twice, so you know he has quality guests. And he also has a business called selfpublishingeasily.com. And the tagline is, we help others publish easily. So, Angel, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm excellent. It's like, thank you for having me. I think it's an honor when you're being interviewed. Yeah, it feels like I can relax. Yeah. So thanks for having me on, champ.
So, yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? When you're the host, it's different to when you're the guest. When you're the guest, you can just chill a little bit more.
That's how I feel. Yeah.
That's okay. So today we are going to talk about self-publishing, because I mentioned off air just before I press record that I think there's a lot of podiatrists out there that have got ideas, thoughts, stories, whether it's podiatry related, business related, it could be technical, or it might be maybe fictional or their own story. But you actually help people put this all together.
Yeah, and it's been a fun task coming off of the podcast, yeah, because that's what we do as podcasters. We navigate and narrate stories for people.
Yeah.
It's what we do. So it was an easy extension stepping into this. But my journey started with my wife. She's a registered nurse. And what she did in the clinics is she would use rhymes because the patients kept coming back asking the same questions.
Okay.
So she started using rhymes so that they'll remember things like their numbers, yeah, like know your numbers, like right, what's a high sugar reading, yeah, like what's high, and she would use rhymes, and it was tremendously successful. And I said, hey, we should make that into a book. So never did
Is
it
that how it
before. This is
started?
way That's how it started, my friend,
Ah,
helping. And that's the hope word right there, right? Helping others publish easy spells hope. My original business with the podcast is we help others pursue excellence, hope again.
yeah.
So yeah, so dove into that with my wife, and wow, I got burnt. I remember needing to get the book cover designed and then
Oh,
seeing the interior and thinking, all right, no, the interior doesn't need to look like just text. Like we need some type of border, and then paying through my teeth for every mistake I made.
yeah.
And at the end of it, we said, okay, we'll print this in the US so that we'll get the best quality. Connected with another guy, and they used a low image quality. My friend flew it in, like literally flew in with the books on
Yeah.
the night of the book launch, and it was poor. Looked like it was blurry.
So
So
it
we
was a
learned
totally
that
bad experience.
it was. We gave away all of the books on the night. The book launch was successful. It was 500 people that attended the event. Unfortunately, the book was of such a low quality, I couldn't sell it. I gave away, I said, hey, you paid
Ah,
for the book with the ticket price, yeah? But going forward, we never did anything like that, yeah? So Amanda, my wife, we published other books. Within the first one was Poems for You and Your Neighbors, Health Disorders Simplified. And then we moved on. And then we did Poems for Patients, a focus on diabetes. Just within the lineage of podiatry, the same friend that flew the book in, her father-in-law, which is my friend's father,
yeah.
lost his leg to diabetes. And then she really zoomed into diabetes. So we got that done properly. And then people started asking us, hey, could you help me publish my book? And that's where it started. Yeah, we started helping other people. Before we knew it, we were helping people write books by interviewing them. So I'll do 12 weeks of interviews, and through the interview process, create a book that identified or aligned with the person.
Okay.
So that was cool. That's what we've been doing. Yeah, go for it.
So if somebody came to you and say they're a podiatrist, say they had an idea, they wanted to write a business book, would you interview them about the business book, or can they write a book, do a rough draft of it, send that to you, and then have you take it from there?
Yeah, it's been a bit of the both according to the strength of the person. Yeah, so it's not set in stone that we have or I have to interview you. It's what works best for the person. So, for example, there's the service of you've completed the book, you just need it formatted to the
Yeah,
size of the book. We get that done. We design the book cover and then we publish it on whatever platform you desire. Usually, we've been using Amazon for the most part because of what you get there. With
yeah,
Amazon, the cost for print is pretty affordable, and you can order a minimum amount of books. You could order one book, yeah, all the way up to 999. So that's good. And then Amazon has its own system where you don't need to order any books. You could just tell someone, go buy the book there and get the royalties and not have to do anything, and they'll handle everything. So that's an idea. But then there are people who don't know how to put the story together.
yeah,
And that has been the best part for me because it gets me checking all of the creativity boxes that I love. Yeah. Like figuring out how the book fits with the business the person's doing. Yeah. Or the interests of the person. Like how does the book that we're about to create meet the goal that they desire for their purpose in life?
yeah.
Because there are people who want to write a book because other people have done it. And then I get people, and I love these types of people who understand the legacy part of this, yeah? Who say, like, I want my grandson or grandchild to be able to see this. But it doesn't have to be text only, right? Like we did one book I gave called The Breadfruit Tree. And it's this guy who he's philanthropic and he gives away breadfruit trees. And he wanted to create a story around the breadfruit tree. Are you familiar with breadfruit? I'm saying breadfruit as
No, I don't know what that
Uh,
is.
you probably call it something else.
I'm sure if I
It's
Google it, I'll probably go, oh, okay, that's exactly what it is.
yeah,
And there's probably other people listening to this going, come on, Tyson, you need to keep up to date with what breadfruit is. But I will know by the
yeah,
end of today, I'll know what breadfruit is.
yeah. So anyway, he gives it away. It's a very cool food. It's like ration food, but it's really good. It's something that grows on a tree. It's circular. You cut the thing in half and you can boil it and eat it. It's starchy, so it's
Yeah.
good. There are benefits there, yeah. But anyway, he gives these away because he believes in sustainability style of life. And a breadfruit tree can do that for you. So anyway, he created this story and yeah, we got a local artist to paint pictures and like
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
checking all the boxes, yeah, of the
Yeah.
creativity. But more than anything else, it aligns with who he is and it's a legacy block, yeah? So we've done
I
a
like the
lot
idea
of
of that,
books.
though, because like you said about the legacy, there'd be a lot of people go, oh, I want my children to understand or say a certain aspect of my life or my thinking on life, but they don't know where to start with the book, how to get it started. So I like the idea where you can do that interview process, pull out the information, just like we do with a podcast. Because it's surprising.
Exactly.
I would say every second guest that I have on that I reach out to, some people I'll reach out to go, hey, why don't you come on the podcast? And they go, yeah, I've been waiting for the call. But more than 50% would go, oh, I've got nothing to say. And I go, everybody
Mm.
has a story. And then when I get them on there and they take me through their podiatry journey or what they've learned or something they're doing, at the end of it, they go, "Oh, that was more fun than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think I'd be able to talk about that as much as what I did, especially when some of them are doing something really cool."
You're a master at your art as well, but I'm sure if you took that episode, you could create a very cool book because it's exactly that. And I saw that. I saw that in the 12-minute conversations. I realized, wait a minute. if you are able to create a conversation, it's the hook. It's the hook,
Yeah.
right? And then it's so funny that this rhymes. So you create the hook and then you create the book. Yeah, just made that up. But it's exactly what a book is. When you meet a page turner, like I was listening to the interview you had where you guys are building it out on Simon Sinek's book, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really it's the hooks, yeah, that you're highlighting. And then there's the book. And everyone in their life, like for example, your last conversation with me when you told me you were doing Thai boxing, right?
Yeah.
That's the hook. Like I remember that, yeah. And when you put things like that in a story or in a book, to then communicate the thing that's even more powerful, which is I want to stay fit and you should stay fit as well. And
Ah,
I
yeah.
did.
Okay. Yeah. I get, yeah. So that whole idea about, yeah, at 58 years of age, trying to stay fit, not wanting to die too young, taking up Thai boxing, every day being in pain, pretty much. There's actually a story in that, but there's probably also a lesson that somebody else that could be older than me or younger than me would read that and go, I can relate to this. That makes sense.
It's worked for me.
Oh,
You
Thai, the
you
Thai
have me
boxer.
fit. Yeah. I'm not going to do Thai boxing, right? But I'm building up my body because
Yeah.
it just made big sense when you said it, and you were just sharing your story, and that's what great books are about, yeah. And when you get strategic with that, it works, and it's been working, and we've seen it work for others, but we're in the background. No one really knows about us. Like you didn't even know I was doing this, right?
I had no
Uh,
idea.
Yeah, so we're the invisibles. And that gives me even more pleasure because it's truly the person's story we're crafting. It's not attempting to create a story that's my style.
Yeah.
It's getting in there and representing as best as possible, yeah, what the person needs to be told. And in time, years from today.
Yeah. So would most people come to you with an idea? I have an idea for this book, and they would come to you, or does somebody say, I just want to write a book, but I don't know what to write on? I just always know I wanted to publish a book. That's how I wrote It's No Secret There's Money in Podiatry. I always just
Mm.
wanted to write a book. It was something I always wanted to do from the time I was a kid. Then I thought, what do I know the most about right now? And it was podiatry business. And that's how the book came about. But it cost me an absolute arm and a leg to do that first one. And yeah, when I did the second one, it only cost me, I think, one arm because it was based off the first one. It still wasn't cheap, but the same thing. When I got the book back, the first print run that got back to me just before the book launch was also a bit on the dodgy side.
The benefit that people have with working with me is I'm thinking about the design while I'm thinking about what the book is going to be about. So that cuts the cost down because I'm mapping your story with the design according to what the budget is for the project.
Yeah,
and and then that happens in two ways where in my mind is wrapping around what's this going to look like, but then when we actually create it, there's room for, oh, this is what it looked like when we actually did it. Now let's now create what's necessary to match this, and that's really expensive,
mm,
yeah, in two ways. One, the artists that you're working with, if they don't have the patience from the first time they enter into starting something, they're like, hey, like we touched this already. Like, why are we touching this again? Yeah.
yeah,
So that's another thing. And our experience with working as you may have worked with someone is you don't want to tell the person 100 times to change something. Like when you tell them once, you tell them
yeah,
twice, you're wondering, can I tell them a third time? But my team is very understanding that, hey, this is us tinkering. We're in tinkering stage. And one of the things we do that I believe is necessary today is not just put text on a page. There's no way text on a page holds readers, well, most readers anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if it does, why not enhance it? Why not give someone who's been reading books with text only something to say, hey, it's nice seeing that there. And that's where we're heading, really focusing on making the reader experience a bit more architecturally sound, yeah. Not doing too much when it's necessary or doing everything that we could when it's necessary.
Yeah, I remember it was a business book though, and about every maybe 10 pages, it actually had an illustration of what they were talking about. And I just remember this one particular image. It was something about, I can't remember the title of the book, but they were talking about someone who wasn't paying their debts. And when you get to that point where you're under financial trouble and you start to you start to sweat profusely and your bum gets itchy. Now, I don't know why they said that, but then all of a sudden there was a cartoon. There was this overweight guy scratching his bum and all the sweat coming off. And the image just absolutely cracked me up. And I just thought, and they did that about every 10 pages. They had these cartoons, but it was the same character going through the whole book. So I almost followed the story through this poor middle-aged overweight guy who was going through all these financial troubles and how he was going to get at the end, but then how happy he looked at the end and had the bright smiley face. So
Yeah,
I can see how images fit in with the story, whether it was a business book, whether it's a personal story, or whether it's about Thai boxing.
yeah. And again, it's the personality of the person coming forward. And it's just like podcasting. When we started, episode one probably had minus 100 of our personality in it,
Yeah.
right? It's only as we kept going, we realized, oh, okay, hey, this is me. And apologetically, this is me, and I'm letting this out, yeah? And guess what? You realize you get an email or feedback, yeah?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that was really cool. So that's what I've been able to help people with, stepping into the personality and having it represented on the page. And again, it's been fun because it's working. Because when you're selling your book, when you're standing with your book and it's
Yep.
something you're proud of, because selling your book is challenging if you aren't that A-type personality. Yeah. But when it's good, and you stand on a stage or in front of your neighbor or your
Yeah.
brother or your uncle, it's a lot easier when you say, hey, I have something that I'm proud of that you should purchase. And that's how I felt. And that's how I want other people to feel.
I remember my brother when I published my book, and he said, when I first heard that you published this book and you sent me a copy, I thought, well, obviously you didn't write this because you failed English at school. But then when I read it, I could tell by the stories you used, I knew you wrote this book because the stories you wrote and the phrases that you used, he says, I just knew that was you. But I do admit I had a good editor, because I remember my daughter was doing an English assignment and she was all upset about how bad she did. And I said, oh, Tia, come here. And I showed her the first manuscript that I did and getting it back and all the red marks of things I had to fix up. And she looked at that and went, oh my God. She goes, how bad were you? And that's where getting professional help like yourself is, that's the difference between writing, not writing. I think that's the thing. Most people won't write because they don't know what to do.
But again, you've done it again, right? Like you just did it again, where you told a chapter story as a song bite, but there's so many. That's a book in itself, yeah? It'll be a children's book, but it'll
Yeah.
be an illustration of
Ah, yes. Okay.
how fathers can help their daughters build their self-esteem.
Oh,
And
you're a
right
smart
there,
man.
you did it. You did, and you did it so wisely, right? But then there's the possibility of repeating that without requiring memorization because it just comes natural to you, right? It's a story that's embedded in your mind, in your heart, and then multiplying it is easy. And that's the thing that took me time to learn. Initially, I thought I would tell the story the way I would want to hear it,
Yeah.
and then realize the person needs to tell the story the way they'll remember saying it over and over and over again. Yeah.
It's really got me
So,
thinking. Yeah. And I can see a lot of podiatrists too who they tell stories to their patients on a regular basis about how to improve their foot health because of diabetes or how to exercise better. Just all this advice that we give out on a regular basis. So I could imagine the podiatrist taking those stories that they normally tell a patient, talking to you and producing a book that they could then hand to the patient. And that'd be so awesome for the profession, all these books coming out.
yeah, I love that. Yeah. And something like that would be cool where it's a collaborative book, yeah, where you give each podiatrist, for example, one topic or one condition
Yeah.
and ask for the story and then have different chapters with the specialty of the podiatrist, yeah. And that'll be fun too. That'll be a nice mix, yeah. Either way, the goal is what do you want to achieve? And if you
Mm.
want people to have healthy feet, then that's the core of it. And then we go further and we figure it out and get it done.
How many pages would the average book be that you help people do?
It varies. I've had people give me 1 page and we've turned it into a 26-page illustrations style book. So
Okay.
that's one. But then if like there are people who we've done the 300-page book for, and then there are people who we've done the 150-page book for. So it varies. Really comes down to the person and the genre that they're targeting. Illustrations are usually on the less page count
Yeah.
because of the cost that goes with producing the illustrations. But as time is going by, we're getting around that. We do not love AI images at this point. Um, but there are some really cool ways, yeah. Like this is something that we did recently. Yeah, so
It's called Waiting on Wings. That's the book you're holding up.
this is like 3 poems in the book, yeah. But what we did is we created a coloring aspect so you can color the images in the book,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
And
so the book's got poems in it, but also it's a coloring in book.
and the poems are built around self-esteem and it's really targeting children. But what the response has been is this is an amazing book. We love it, and you can color it. So it's really getting around and identifying what the client wants and also what the reader will desire of the product. Yeah. Podiatry is an interesting topic. Again, it's close to my heart with my wife and what she's done in the diabetic world. Yeah. But it's always what would the patient and how would they respond to the information you're sharing in the small window that you're given? Because someone will come to your office and they'll be prepped to hear everything you have to say and probably take away something they've purchased. But will they open that thing when they get home? Yeah. And what encourages them to do that? So it's always a toss up between how to get the reader to read because, my friend, people aren't reading the way they used to, at least in my part of the world. I'm not seeing an increase in readers.
Yeah, I think it depends. My daughter reads, my wife reads, I read. I think if you read books yourself, I think your kids see you reading books, they read books. Whereas, yeah, like I also enjoy audiobooks, but then I enjoy podcasts. So for me, listening to an audiobook, I would rather be listening to a podcast. And I like the smell of a book. I
Me
like
too.
I like holding a book. I like scribbling notes in the side of a book, especially because most of the books I'll read will be personal development, business type books. That's what interests me. I don't read fiction because if I want to see fiction, I'll watch a movie.
Yeah, we have a household of readers as well. My son likes the audiobooks. So I have three sons. The
Yeah.
first likes audio, but I'm seeing him staring on to physical books now because of it's an opportunity to hide away and just be with yourself, yeah.
Mm.
Uh, and I'm talking about they read like 400, 300 books a year.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, so that's the 15, the 10, and even the 5-year-old is in the 100 game. But of course, his books are smaller, and so they think he's cheating, yeah. But I love audiobooks because I get to do things while I love the garden and being outside, and I love that. So that's probably why the mix of creating a physical book gets the creativity side of me going because of the visuals that go with my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
My attention span is a bit low for the most part. But
So I
yeah,
just want
but
to
it's
let
been
people, I want to let people know too that if they want to go to your website, it's selfpublisheasily.com.
there you go. 100%.
And the podcast is 12minconvos.com. So I'll have all that in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Like I said, I know a lot of podiatry, and it's not just podiatry books that I'm talking about, whether they want to write a book for their patients. There's a lot of podiatrists, I think, who have done some amazing things. Been in the military, they've had careers outside of podiatry. And what they've learned through that have been some of the stories they've shared on the podcast. And you go, I mean, some of this stuff is so interesting that I'm sure if they put their mind to it, there'll be some book based around that. Or they might have an interest in something that's got absolutely nothing to do with podiatry, but it's a story that's in their head that they should actually get out. Because nothing's
Yeah.
better than, I reckon, when you publish a book, geez, it makes you feel good.
Yeah, that was the third layer I was about to say as well. Doing a book is one of the most therapeutic experiences that there is. It gives you an opportunity to self-reflect. Like the investment is worth the cost just for that clarity of life that you get when you sit and you put a timeline to the events of your life. It works, yeah. I've done my books and yeah, it's given me wisdom and I think humility for my mistakes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've forgiven the younger version of me right now because it's very therapeutic.
I remember the person I spoke to first when it came to publishing a book. And when I'd finished publishing it and I'd caught up with them, I said, this might seem really weird, but I feel smarter after publishing the
Mm,
book. And they went, well, of course you do, because you don't just write a book without any thought. You actually, to write a book, there's some thought and structure needs to go into it, even a little bit of research to back up facts or dates. And when you do that, you tend to go down a bit of a rabbit hole. So by the time you finish the book, no matter what the book is, you are a better person for going through the process.
yeah. I'll add one of the things I love too is to ensure that my clients understand the business of a book. And they get to choose if they're going after the business side of it or they simply want to create the book because that's something that they want checked on their items of to do in their
Yeah.
life. But yeah, I'm very adamant about understanding the revenue that can come from a book and how it works. So it's a campaign item. It's the thing you can use to refresh the campaign, yeah, of your life or your practice or whatever you're selling. It gives you this new thing to say, hey, this is what I've done. This is what I want to do. And this is my book about it. You should read it. And it's the calling card. Yeah, it works
Mm.
because one of the things I've seen is it psychologically positions you as someone who's done something because When you say you've written a book, there's a positioning immediately in the
Oh,
person.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mum does 10-pin bowling, and she rang me up the other day. She said, "Oh, I sold your book." I said, "The one that I signed for you when I wrote it." I said, "Yeah, this is for my mum." She said, "Yeah, I sold it at 10-pin bowling." I said, "What'd you sell for?" And she went, "Well, I was talking to this lady, and we were just talking about our kids, and she was boasting about her child." And I said, "Oh yeah, and my son's a published author." And they went, "Ooh." And then we started talking about what the book was about, and one of their sons had a business, and so there was my second business book there. And so my mum said, "Oh, I'll bring it in." And so she sold it for $30.
Love it. Proud mom. Proud
And
mom.
I said, "Yeah." And she just went, she goes, "I was so proud because you all had careers. I'd done podiatry and their sons had all done things." She said, "But you were the only son that had published a book, and not just one, you'd done
Hmm.
2 books." She goes, "So I was so proud to say that my son was a published author." And I got it. I actually understood what she was talking about, because even when I had the book published, that's how I felt. It was like, you know what, I've done something like that a lot of people think about doing, but never do it. And now here's their opportunity to actually do it.
Let's come back to Simon. What's your reference to Simon Sinek?
My reference in, well, he's written a lot of books.
There you go. If
When I
if
think of
he
Simon
didn't write,
Sinek, he's written a lot of books. That's my
it's
reference. He is an author who has written a lot of books, who gets a lot of speaking engagements off the back of a lot of the books he's written, and they're all good books. He hasn't written a dog yet. He might hear
it's
this and go,
and
"That's my next book, dog."
and again, it's the thing, right? It's there's a positioning in your mind that has Simon in a place, and it's only because really, well, he's written great books as well, yeah, but it's because of that,
Yeah.
and
But
that's
it's
a
the same
that's
as
a
you would have heard of Robert Kiyosaki.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Kiyosaki was the
So
guy, one of my
before he was super famous, we spent the day with Robert Kiyosaki here in Cairns. He was doing a 1-day workshop, and his book had only just come out, hadn't become super famous. We'd read the book, went, "Hey, this is pretty cool." And all of a sudden he's in Cairns. And there's only about 20 of us there in the room with him for the whole day. And this is before selfies and selfies. So I've got no photographic evidence that we ever met. But it's
hmm,
because he was an author that got all the bums in that room that day. He published the book
hmm.
on a topic that we were all interested about. He wasn't even famous then, but there was enough of us in Cairns who went along. After that, then became super famous. Probably would be able to afford to have a 1-day seminar with him with 20 people for an hour.
Yeah, he did amazing with that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And again, it's the campaigning, it's the call card, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he went after the business, yeah, with that book. Yeah, he did that. But that book was amazing. It was a great book. That was a
It
great book,
was.
yeah. And yeah, and again, it comes back to he based it upon his life. He told stories, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that poor dad concept. And when it was time to regurgitate that thing, it was easy because it was embedded in him. And to this day, Rich Dad Poor Dad is huge, right? So now, does everyone become Kiyosaki or Simon? Not necessarily. Within your space, though, you
Yeah.
get to be that and proudly. And that's what we've done, yeah?
Well, that happened
Yeah, I
with me.
remember.
I was going to see some friends in Powell River in British Columbia, and about 6 hours by car, or 45 minutes from Vancouver if you fly. And we were going to see some friends in this town. And I said to them, I said, "Oh, while I'm there, I'm going to make this trip tax deductible." So I wrote to the Chamber of Commerce and said, "Oh, hey, how you doing? My name's Tyson Franklin. I'm a published author. This is what I speak about. If you have a luncheon on during this week, can I come in and do a talk?" They wrote back to me
Mm,
and said, "Well, we don't have a luncheon on, but we're going to put one on that week, so you can talk." I went, "Oh, okay." And
mm.
next thing, my friends sent me a message, or they sent a clipping out of the paper. Famous author from Australia is going to be doing this talk at their special
Mm,
luncheon that they're having for the Chamber of Commerce. Normally, they have 12 people at their meetings. They had 50 people turn up
Wow.
for their lunch. The mayor was there to meet me. So I got a
Wow.
photo with the mayor, and it was in the paper the next day about this famous author from Australia doing this. And my friends are just going, if they only knew, they'd be huge.
I'm sure someone could have said that about Kiyosaki way back then too, right?
Yeah.
But you did it. And you took the picture because you learned from the Kiyosaki experience, right? Like
And
always take the
the mayor wanted to meet me. So we shook hands and he sat there and listened to my
amazing.
talk. And it was what it taught me was, like you said, your book is a big business card. So whether you wrote, mine was a business book, but whether you wrote a children's book, if I met another podiatrist and they said, oh, I've written this children's book, I would be impressed.
Yeah. Yeah, it does open you up to a world as well that you never knew existed. And I've heard that many times, right? It opens you up to a world that you never knew existed. So, yeah. But congratulations, though, my friend. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I love that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I need to ask you a question. So there's going to be podiatrists sitting back listening to this. Oh, there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are not podiatrists as well. Is there a cost range that to get started or what it could go up to? Because I know there's probably people sitting there thinking, oh, but it's probably too expensive. But I've got a rough idea. It's not as expensive as what they think.
Yeah, so I'll say the highest price item can go anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 US, and
Yep.
that's everything. That's writing as well as designing, publishing. That's the done for you package, yeah. And then there are other things that you can break our services up into. So let's say you don't need the interior design, but you just need the book cover, then those things are standard. It's like $99 to design the ebook, $149 to design the paperback, $199 to design the both of them. Everything's on the website, though.
Yeah.
We're very clear cut when it comes to the pricing of how things are. If we're formatting the book, it's $250. If we're editing the book, well, we need to get a sample of the chapter to feel the vibe of the thing, to know what it'll take to edit it. And then we give you back our version of the edit so you can know if it's a right fit before attempting to go for the entire book and then
Yeah.
realizing, no, this person's destroyed my work, yeah? So, yeah, so we're very open with our prices at this time, and we've not changed them for the last 3 years. What we've done is keep things down on our side to ensure that the customer is happy, because again, the maths is necessary. If someone's paying 35 to 5,000 US, how do we make that even, just break even? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's tied to the amount of books that a person needs to sell, which I believe every person can sell 100 books. So if that's the starting point, if we do 100 books by $15, then at least you've recouped half of the cost right
Yeah.
there. Yeah. And then if the book is written in a way that it brings back income for another service, then it's even out of the park, yeah? Because now you've made what you've paid, but you've also been able to get a client that then creates recurring revenue. And who isn't happy with that?
Well, my first book, 10 years ago, I wrote it. It costs more. What you're charging now to do my first book costs a lot more than what you're charging now. And that was 10 years ago. But I will admit, every month from the time I published it in September 2014, I've received money in my bank account every single month. And even the publisher
That's
at the
good.
time just said, I can't believe 10 years later, you were still making money from that book. And I said, because
Yeah.
that's how good the book is.
Love it. You poured your heart out into the thing. Yeah, we've seen
Oh,
that
then I had
as
one
well.
guy, then I had someone give me a 1-star review. And yeah, what I thought was really funny when I got the 1-star review, I went, I wonder how many books you've written. Because no author would give another author a 1-star review,
Come
no
on.
matter how bad it is, because they
Yeah.
know how much time and effort and work goes into even a book that may not be the greatest book, even though I think my book's pretty good.
Yeah, well, those things hurt though. When you get those 1 stars, we've gotten 1 stars, and it's the weirdest thing. Imagine someone gives you a 1 star and says, "This book has too much information. I thought it would be less." It's like, what?
When I got that first 1-star review, it cut me. I just went, that hurt so much.
Yeah,
But since then, I have laughed about it. The person never used a real name, just put Emil, Emil. They used my name. The part that they picked on, I sort of went, if that's all you got out of the book, then you're a dumbass. And they know that.
wow.
So I don't really have to say anything else. But I think when I do my next book, I'm going to dedicate it to that person. When I got that 1-star review, it inspired me to go, you know what? If I'm annoying people, I need to write more.
Well, I'll tell you something. I remember telling one of my friends, who eventually helped wrote a book, that I told her, hey, we wanted to buy something on Amazon, and we were looking at the reviews, and she said, "You look at the reviews before you buy something?" And she laughed at me. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
So I was like, "You don't look at the reviews when you're buying something?" And she said, "No, if it's good, I buy it." It's like, oh, okay then. So that doesn't match with what I do. But there are people who buy something for other reasons than just the reviews. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like
So
I will read reviews, but I read into the review because
me
exactly what you
too.
said. Oh, you get a 1-star review because you give too much information. Like I saw a review on a restaurant once. They gave them 1 star because the traffic was bad on the way to the restaurant.
But let's go back to your mom though. Like
Yeah,
your mom sold a book and the person didn't care that you got a 1 star review.
no.
The person got the reference point from someone they trusted and it was a done for deal. Yeah. So, and that happens a lot. We've seen that a lot. We've had Amazon sales where you get 0 sales for months and then you see 150 books purchased.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's a give and take, but
Well, that's
it
happened to me.
works.
That's how I know when there's been a podiatry conference and somebody at the podiatry, all of a sudden I'll see a spike where 50 books got sold that particular month. And I'm like, that's unusual, just a spike in that country. And then I'll
Yeah.
know someone in that country go, was there a conference? And they go, oh, actually, yeah, there was. And the person on stage put a photo of your book up there and said, oh, you need to read this book.
I love it.
And
Amazing.
everybody thought it straight out. They didn't read a review. They didn't care because the person on stage said the book was good. And I think a lot more people, it's word of mouth about books, what's good and what's not.
Yeah, I got Simon Sinek's book because I listened to you both do a review on the book,
It's a
right?
good book.
Like I didn't even check the review. You guys just said you heard it in your tones. This is a book you need to read, yeah? So it's there now, and it's on my queue next to read.
Okay. So before we wrap up, do you have any final words of advice, wisdom that you'd like to share with whoever's listening to this podcast, whether a podiatrist or not a podiatrist, just about the process or what's the best way of getting in touch with you if they want to share, other than the website selfpublisheasily.com?
Well, the thing that I think this conversation has allowed us to represent is the power of relationships and the way it's built. I met you years ago on the podcast,
Yeah.
and the evolution of that is today where we're talking about something I sell, and you're representing that because of our relationship, and that's powerful. And the book is the same thing, yeah. So sometimes people need some other format so that they can then tell other people about the thing you do. And if that's for you, then we're here to help. And I really appreciate you having a conversation with me. I'm always fascinated by how time just melts away in our
It does.
conversation. I don't feel it, and that speaks to your skill set for conversations, but as well as your heart for humanity. Yeah, so love
No, this has
that.
been fun. I think we've known each other 6 or 7 years now. Be something like that.
Yeah. Thankfully, Eric said, "Hey, this is a podcast you should come on to." Right? Again,
Eric
reference
Hunley, yeah,
points. Yeah,
big shout out to
Is-
Eric Hunley. And I remember
yeah.
I actually went and had a quick listen to our original episode that we did. And I'm listening to the
Mm.
audio and I've gone, oh, that wasn't very good. But then I remember the office that I'm in now, I was getting it renovated. So I had to move all my stuff into one of the spare rooms. And when I had it all, and I know exactly where I was sitting when we did it. I'm thinking, that's right. I was in a completely different room. It was a little bit echoey. So there were a number of episodes around that time that weren't the best, but I'm still here doing it. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and we can go on and on, but even that is fascinating, though, right? The way your memory is triggered from listening
Yes.
to the conversation you had. It's just amazing, right? That otherwise that memory would have been in the bank in the background there and not, but it's amazing. So yeah, when I listen back, it triggers the where I was and the challenges of my butt hurting while I'm sitting for hours. It's different.
And people always ask me, yeah, what, like with podcasting, this is the Podiatry Legends, you've just gone past 6 years with the
Wow,
podcast, which is
congrats.
great. And,
Hmm.
but what I find interesting about it is people say, well, why do you keep doing it? And it's people like yourself that come on the podcast. The people I've met through podcasting all around the world is phenomenal. And that's why on my back wall, it says the next connection could be the one that changes your life. I just think it doesn't matter what you do, where you're going, is just keep meeting people, talk to people, shake hands, exchange business cards, get on podcasts if you can as a guest, and just changes your life.
Yeah, it keeps you sharp. It's an entire episode. If we even start talking about podcasting and what it does for you, it's another 5 episodes, I'll tell
Yeah, I know.
you.
Oh, you
But
do it
yeah,
fast. Are you sponsored by Nike? Because every time I see you, you seem to have a Nike cap on.
one of my other older friends told me, he said, "Hey, do they pay you for wearing that cap?" He's
Yeah, I
like, "You
know.
should put your name on there. Your name should be there. Like, don't do the Nike. It's just the Nike hat fits my head so well, and I don't feel it that it's one of my favorites. Yeah. Other than that, no, they don't sponsor me.
No, it's like I've got shoes in the background here, Bamazi
I
footwear.
see that.
Yes,
Is it is
it's a
it
new
comfortable?
brand. They are a fantastic shoe, and they're not sponsoring the podcast either, or not yet.
But it, yeah, yeah, you should pitch it. I should pitch it as well, yeah. But yeah, I don't like Nike that much. Like it, but again, the hat just fits
I
really
know.
good.
I know.
Yeah,
I have some Nike
yeah.
shoes that are like that. Okay. So, Angel, I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast. This has been absolutely fantastic. And I really encourage everyone listening to this to reach out to you, at least have that initial conversation about maybe publishing something at some stage, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure.